Just imagine this. You're fast asleep in your own home in the dead of night. Suddenly, you're jolted awake. A bright flashlight shines directly into your eyes. You open them, dazed, and see a masked man standing over you. He's pointing a gun straight at your temple. Then, he calls your name. His jaw is tight, teeth clenched. In a cold, calm voice, he warns, "If you don't obey, you'll die, and I'll disappear into the darkness." That nightmare was real. For decades, this was the terror that haunted California. Because for years, police failed to capture a man so cunning, so meticulous, that he managed to evade justice across the entire state. A mass predator, a sadistic intruder, a violent sexual deviant. He was known by many names. The Visalia ransacker, the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, the Diamond Knot Killer, and most notoriously, the Golden State Killer. No matter which name he used, he brought fear and devastation to countless families. He became one of the most prolific and terrifying serial offenders in American history. Sometimes he struck different homes on back-to-back nights. Other times, he returned to the same neighborhood so often that families put up for sale signs and took turns sleeping in shifts. For 12 long years, from 1974 to 1986, the Golden State Killer broke into more than 120 homes, raped over 50 victims, murdered 13 innocent people, and shattered the lives of many more. But his reign of terror happened before modern 911 systems, before home security cameras, before DNA profiling and the internet. Police were left chasing shadows. No match for a predator so disciplined, so ruthless, and so invisible. For 44 years, the case of the East Area Rapist went cold. Investigators hit dead end after dead end. He left no fingerprints. His DNA didn't match anyone in police databases. Despite countless tips and false leads, they couldn't even identify him by name. Everything changed when investigators turned to a new technique, forensic genetic genealogy. Using DNA from a 1980 murder scene, detectives uploaded the profile to a public database called GED Match. The results were shocking. The DNA didn't match a suspect. It matched distant relatives of the killer. Over the next 4 months, investigators built an entire family tree, branch by branch, descendant by descendant, until all signs pointed to one man, a former police officer, a retired warehouse worker named Joseph James DeAngelo. He was 72 years old, born in 1945 in Bath, New York. DeAngelo served in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam era, working as a damage controlman aboard the USS Canberra and USS Piedmont. After returning home, he earned a degree in criminal justice from Sacramento State University and interned at the Roseville Police Department. In 1973, he joined the Exeter Police Department, where co-workers described him as smart, brave, and observant. But no one suspected that behind the badge was a violent predator. By day, DeAngelo patrolled the streets, solving cases. By night, he became the very thing he was sworn to stop. His first recorded break-in happened on March 19, 1974, in Visalia, California, when someone stole $50 from a child's piggy bank. It marked the beginning of one of the longest and most disturbing crime sprees in American history. In the early 1970s, Visalia was a quiet town, a place where families left windows open and doors were rarely locked. Its dark alleys and isolated houses created the perfect hunting ground for a man like DeAngelo. But he wasn't like most burglars. While others rushed in and out for valuables, DeAngelo moved calmly through the house as if it were his own. He didn't just steal things. He rummaged through drawers, tore apart women's underwear drawers, and took strange, personal items. Family photos, wedding rings, driver's licenses, and coins. It wasn't about money. It was about control. The thrill, the sense of superiority. Knowing that his fellow officers were chasing shadows, while the real criminal stood right beside them. The Visalia ransacker, as he was later called, wasn't just a thief, he was escalating, and no one knew how far he would go next. He believed his police training made him smarter, more cunning than the average criminal. Joseph DeAngelo planned every move. He stalked homes for weeks, sometimes months, before striking. He often chose houses that backed up to parks, alleys, or drainage ditches. Places that offered easy escape routes if things went wrong. Since no car was ever seen nearby, investigators believed he approached on foot or used a stolen bicycle. He always wore gloves, and once inside, he'd open windows or garage doors to create more escape options. One of his signature tricks was stacking dishes or bottles on door handles. If someone came in unexpectedly, the noise would alert him in time to escape. Over 20 months, the Visalia ransacker committed more than 120 burglaries. At first, he seemed content rummaging through belongings. But that changed around 10 p.m. on February 3rd, 1975. While prowling a house at 532 Whitney Lane in Visalia, he saw a 16-year-old girl in her pajamas. That moment awakened a darker urge inside him. The girl's father noticed a suspicious figure outside her window and went to confront him. DeAngelo fled into the night, but the image of the girl haunted him. He knew he wanted to return and rape her. At around 2 a.m. on September 11, 1975, Claude Snelling, the father, was awakened by a noise. When he went to check, he found the back door wide open and saw a masked man dragging his daughter, Beth, by the hair. The intruder threatened to shoot her in the head and warned he would kill the whole family if she didn't cooperate. Realizing he'd been discovered, Joseph DeAngelo shot Claude Snelling twice in the chest. He then kicked Beth in the face before fleeing. A stolen bicycle was left behind nearby, later linked to the attacker, and Beth miraculously survived. Her father did not. This is widely considered DeAngelo's first known murder. Later that year, around 8:30 p.m. on December 12, 1975, police set up a stakeout near a home on West Kauai Avenue, an area the Visalia ransacker had hit repeatedly. As expected, a masked man broke into the yard. When Detective William McGowan tried to detain him, the suspect screamed, pretended to surrender, and began to remove his mask. It was a trick. In one swift motion, he produced a gun and fired. The bullet shattered McGowan's flashlight, and the man escaped. Investigators later recovered several items at the scene: a broken flashlight, tennis shoe tracks, blue chip stamps, and a sock filled with coins. All pieces of evidence left in the rush to flee. After that shooting, the string of Visalia burglaries abruptly stopped. Residents breathed a temporary sigh of relief. But the hunter had not gone away. He had moved on. In 1976, Joseph James DeAngelo was transferred to the Auburn Police Department near Sacramento. From that point, his crimes escalated. Petty theft no longer satisfied him. He began breaking into homes at night, raping women and eventually murdering victims during invasions. He became known as the East Area Rapist because he targeted neighborhoods in the eastern part of Sacramento County and later struck across other regions of California. DeAngelo grew more sophisticated and more reckless. At first, he focused on women living alone or single mothers with young children. He typically picked middle-class suburban neighborhoods with single-story homes, especially houses near wooded trails, parks, or dark alleys. He would spend weeks, sometimes months, scouting an area, studying the terrain, observing homes, and memorizing victims' routines. Before an attack, he often entered the house in advance to prepare, disabling porch lights, unlocking windows, hiding shoelaces or ropes under beds, and unloading any guns he found. He studied floor plans, inspected family photos, and memorized the names of household members. A few days before an attack, victims sometimes reported strange sounds outside their windows or received disturbing phone calls, heavy breathing, or whispered words before the line went dead. Though DeAngelo was bold, he was never careless. He meticulously planned every detail, knowing when a woman would be home alone and when family members were expected to return. Because of that planning, he often escaped even when nearly caught. His signature method was consistent: break in through a window, wake victims by shining a flashlight in their eyes, then control them with a gun or knife. He tied victims with pre-hidden shoelaces, blindfolded them, and gagged them with towels. He would then rape his victims, sometimes for hours. Unusually, he often wore little more than a ski mask and sandals, sometimes not even pants, and he would linger in the house for long stretches. He calmly ransacked drawers, ate food from the kitchen, drank beer, and then returned to assault the victim again. That behavior inflicted a particular psychological terror. Victims never knew whether he had left or remained hidden somewhere in the house, waiting. During some attacks, victims reported hearing the assailant sob or mutter. Investigators later noted that in at least one assault, the attacker cried out, "I hate you, Bonnie," suggesting deep anger toward a woman named Bonnie, a figure who would later be identified as DeAngelo's former fiancée. At first, he primarily targeted single women or mothers. But after media coverage noted, he usually avoided homes with adult men. He changed tactics to attack married couples to prove he feared no one. When attacking couples, he used the same methods. He forced the woman at gunpoint to bind her husband, then tied her up as well. He would separate the two, force the man to lie face down, and sometimes stack dishes on his back. He would whisper, "If I hear a sound, I'll kill you both," then drag the woman to another room and rape her repeatedly. Under public pressure and amid repeated attacks, local authorities organized community meetings to calm fears and give safety advice. At one of those meetings in late 1976, a man stood and blasted the police for their failure to catch the rapist. He mocked husbands who'd failed to protect their wives and loudly proclaimed that if the rapist ever came near his house, he would kill him. 6 months later, on May 17, 1977, the bodies of a man and his wife were found inside their home. The woman had been raped multiple times before both were shot dead. Shockingly, the victims were the same couple who had spoken at that community meeting. The message was chillingly clear: no one was safe, not even those who dared to challenge him publicly. The East Area Rapist was not only brutal, but also arrogant. He would occasionally call the police just to taunt them. On March 18, 1977, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office received 3 phone calls from a man claiming to be the East Area Rapist. That very night, a new victim was attacked, exactly as he had warned. His psychological terror didn't stop there. He would call his former victims months after the attacks, sometimes even at their workplaces, just to make sure they continued to live in fear. On July 5, 1979, in Goleta, California, a terrified woman lay face down in her living room, her wrists tied behind her back, her ankles bound, blindfolded, and gagged with a towel. Despite being restrained, she could hear the intruder rummaging through the kitchen. At around 2 a.m., she heard him muttering, "I'm going to kill them." By sheer luck and determination, she managed to loosen the ropes on her legs and ran out the front door screaming for help. Her neighbor, an off-duty FBI agent, heard her cries and rushed over. He saw a tall, masked man jump onto a motorcycle and speed away. This failed attack may have shaken the assailant more than any before. After that, Joseph DeAngelo moved to Southern California. From that point on, he made sure none of his victims would survive to describe him. In 1979, DeAngelo was arrested for shoplifting a hammer and dog repellent. As a result, he was fired from the Auburn Police Department. But this dismissal only made him more dangerous. On the morning of December 30th, 1979, police responded to a horrifying scene at the home of Dr. Robert Offerman in Goleta. A woman stood outside, crying, saying 2 people were dead inside. Officers discovered the bodies in the bedroom. Dr. Offerman, 44, a respected orthopedic surgeon, was found kneeling on the floor, holding 3 pieces of white nylon rope in his hand. He had apparently tried to fight back. His girlfriend, Deborah Manning, 35, a clinical psychologist, was found naked and tied on the bed. As detectives processed the crime scene, they noticed something bizarre. A frozen turkey wrapped in cellophane sitting near the body, and an empty plate on the porch. The killer had apparently opened the refrigerator and helped himself to the victim's leftover Christmas dinner. This strange detail marked the beginning of a new and deadlier chapter in the story of this notorious criminal. Over the next 7 years in Southern California, he would go on to brutally murder 4 couples and 2 women in carefully planned and unimaginably violent attacks. On March 13, 1980, 33-year-old Charlene Smith and her 43-year-old husband, Lyman Smith, were found murdered in their Ventura home. Charlene had been raped. Both victims had been bludgeoned to death with a log taken from outside the house. Investigators discovered that the victims' wrists and ankles had been tied with an unusual knot, what would later be identified as the diamond knot, a type of Chinese knotting technique. This detail raised suspicions, as the same knot had been used in several unsolved rape cases in the Sacramento area. Detectives began to wonder, could the Night Stalker of Southern California be the same man as the East Area Rapist? Though they analyzed the knot, hoping to learn about the killer's background, perhaps military or sailing, no solid leads emerged. Then, on August 19, 1980, another brutal attack took place. Keith Harrington, 24, and his wife Patrice, 27, were found bludgeoned to death in their home in a wealthy neighborhood of Dana Point. Patrice had also been raped. Although bruising on their wrists and ankles suggested they'd been tied up, no rope or weapon was ever found. The Harringtons had been married for just 3 months when they were killed. Keith's brother, Bruce Harrington, a wealthy businessman, spent more than $2 million to support California's Proposition 69, a law requiring DNA collection from all convicted felons. He hoped it would one day lead to his brother's killer. On July 27, 1981, 35-year-old Sherry Domingo and 27-year-old Greg Sanchez became the killer's next victims. They were murdered inside a home in Goleta, California. Just like before, Sherry had been raped, and both were beaten to death. At the scene, investigators once again found shoe prints, Adidas, size 9. Then, on May 4, 1986, 18-year-old Janelle Cruz was raped and bludgeoned to death in her home in Irvine, California. Her family was away on vacation in Mexico at the time of the attack. She would become the final known victim of the killer. The case went cold for decades. But a passionate group of amateur sleuths refused to give up. Among them was writer Michelle McNamara, who coined the name the Golden State Killer and helped revive public interest in the case. Her book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, was published posthumously in 2018 and became a bestseller. Then, after 44 years of terror, a breakthrough finally came. On April 24, 2018, Joseph James DeAngelo, a former police officer, was arrested. Using genetic genealogy, investigators had uploaded the suspect's DNA from old crime scene evidence into a public genealogy website. They built a family tree and narrowed the search by age, location, and other clues. Eventually, they collected DeAngelo's DNA from a tissue he threw in the trash, and it was a perfect match. On June 29, 2020, DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder. He could not be charged with rape or burglary due to the statute of limitations on those crimes. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The arrest of Joseph DeAngelo was a landmark moment. The first time a cold case of this magnitude had been solved using publicly available genetic data. It sparked a revolution in how police approach unsolved crimes, but also raised serious questions about ethics and privacy in the digital age. From August 18th to 20th, 2020, victims and family members faced DeAngelo in court. They shared their pain, their loss, and the years of trauma they had endured. Though justice was finally served, the emotional scars remain. The Golden State Killer has been unmasked, but for his victims, the nightmare will never truly be over. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please subscribe to our channel for more true crime documentaries. Your support helps us continue to share untold stories and uncover the darkest chapters of criminal history. See you in the next video.